Welcome to Give Permission to Ask Questions on a Monday morning. And today it's Give Permission to Tell a Story. It's a good week. It's the start of the week. We have no idea what the adventure holds. And today is an adventure. Tomorrow's an adventure. The next day is an adventure. Everything is an adventure. So, what story are you telling? Are you the main character in your story? Are you the lead? I'm a main character in my own story, obviously. A good story goes a long way. Even in turmoil, can you still sell or tell a good story? Don't make yourself the villain. Don't make yourself the second in. It's your story, it's your life. Make yourself the leader. And everyone self sacrifices all the time. You're in control of your life. You have the thought pattern to do whatever you want. So, I was debating if I should do this, but I'm like, I love a good story. The Way Home, a princess story. So I'm not necessarily a princess, but I'm a Viking princess. So yes, I'm a princess. So why not tell a little princess story by Max Lucado and Tristan Elwell. This is the princess. Let's do this. The Way Home. Long, long ago, in a kingdom more majestic than any other, there lived a beautiful young princess, Anna. Anna had not always been a princess. When she was an infant, the king had found her, abandoned in a forest. She brought her to the castle to raise as his own. Yet as Anna grew, so did her curiosity. She wondered about the outside world, outside the kingdom. What had she missed? What lay beyond the green gardens of the castle? Anna sighed. She propelled her elbow to the ledge, rested her chin on the hand, and stared out the castle window. Flowers dotted the meadow. Children splashed in the creek. Beyond the meadow, the dark forest loomed. What a beautiful day outside. What a bad day to be inside. Oh man, part of the book is flipping pages. Princess, a voice called. Your studies. Yes, Sir Henry. Anna glanced towards the forest. Is it true? The round man looked up, raised his eyebrow. Excuse me? About the Lowlanders. I hear they never work a day. Hold on, let's do the picture. I hear that they never work. Their days are all filled with fun. The tutor lowered his book. Forget them. They mean us harm. But all I do is work. I'm just not sure I was meant to be a princess. Sir Henry crossed the room and rested his hand on Anna's shoulders. I've watched you since the day you arrived, and I have been your teacher since you were small. I have seen you blossom with your father's guidance. Listen to me. The forest is no place for anyone, especially the daughter of royalty. Those trees know an evil that does not sleep. But Sir Henry interrupted by placing his finger on her lips. Your studies. There's so much to learn. Anna nodded, but stole one glance into the valley, wondering about life away from the castle. Deep within the forest, 3 landlords plotted. Oh, look how bad they're plotting. And rummaged through costumes. Emma and Gusha usually shared a costume. Let's be donkeys, I'm offered. Not again. The suit is hot and you stink. Guna smirked. Look how evil these little monsters are. Gotcha pulled on a hood. The princess will feel sorry for a poor old hag. Pass as hags wouldn't be hard for them. With hunched shoulders and warty noses, they looked the part. They were 3-stump shaped, with faces of bumpy and cobblestone, and ears as pointy as oak leaves. Getcha was the tallest, but as he were to stand near the princess, he barely came up to her waist. You two dress as farmers, ordered Getcha. I'm on top, Emma shouted. You got top last one, Guna objected. Yeah, and look what happened. I was brilliant. We nabbed 3 castle dwellers. Silence, Getcha interrupted, holding a finger skyward. We have 1 shot at the princess. Oldeb will be angry if we fail. The 3 lowered their heads. Olbed whispered Guna. Olbed echoed Emma. After a quiet moment, they resumed plotting. Getcha instructed. Tomorrow when the teaching begins, the girl to the creek, you 2 distract him, and I'll lure her into the trees. He hissed and smiled. With one tooth smiled. Olda will be proud. Back in the castle, the king shook his head. Why? He asked his daughter's teacher, why is she so curious about the lowlanders? He strokes his square jaw and shared in his old friend. Maybe she wondered what her life would be like if she had not become a princess, said Henry explained. She hears rumors of these easy life. Easy? Dwellers in the dark forest? Dodging the wrath of Olbed? She is young, your majesty. But, yes, but she is mine. The king shook his head. I've tried to tell her so many times. She is meant to do important things. Perhaps she will listen to me, your majesty, Edward said, stepping forward. The king smiled at the young man who spoke. Edward was the strongest of the knights. Indeed, she might listen to you, Edward. She certainly notices you. Edward's face blushed, but he did not smile. We must put an end to those thoughts of the lowlanders. Olbed sees your daughter as a prize to be won. The king stiffened in the sound of his arch enemy's name. You're right. Talk to her. Tell her how they poison minds. And paused. Remind her once more how I love her. This dude loves the princess. What? Oh my god. There's feelings in my heart. Sir Henry led Edward through the grand hall towards a large door. He heard feet pattering on the other side and shook his head, knowing Anna was dashing towards her desk from the window. As they entered, she reopened her book. Anna looked at Edward and smiled. Her beauty stole his breath. Black satin hair, rosy cheeks, deep green eyes. It wasn't long ago that he had avoided her. During that time that he had trained to be a knight, he had succeeded at being a brat. How was she so suddenly pretty, Edward? Sir Henry reminded. Oh, yes, he answered, clearing his throat. With your permission, milady. She nodded. Oh, look, there's... Oh, Your fascination of the forest troubles us, princess. Have you met them, Edward? Her excited voice betrayed her curiosity. The lowlanders mean you harm. But I've heard they have nothing but fun. You've heard wrong. Avoid these servants of Olbed. She shrugged, but the tone of Edward's next words urged her to heed it with caution. Your father loves you so much, Anna, she smiled, and I love him, Edward. I know to be careful. The knight nodded with certainty and then dismissed himself. Still worried, he walked through the halls, fearing the worst. He was right to do so. The next day, Sir Henry kept watch of the princess waiting at the creek. The blue sky and bubbling waters lifted his spirit. Suddenly a voice called, Oh, friend, help! Is this an old lady? Is it? The teacher turned to a father, ambling towards him. The wide-brimmed hat and chest-length beard covered Emma's face. Gruna hid within the long coat, groaned beneath the weight. Barely able to see, his tripped caused Emma to wobble even more. The sight of the odd man might have roused Sir Henry's suspicion, but the man's clumsiness stirred his compassion. He hurried towards him, unaware of a distinguished lowland approaching the princess. Is it true when I hear, young woman, is that you desire to visit the forest? Anna, knee-deep in the water, looked up with a trusting smile. You know the lowlanders? Indeed I do. The princess glanced towards her teacher, helping the old man. But I can't. It will only take a moment, the woman enticed, beckoning with a crooked finger. Anna looked towards the castle, then back at the entrance, an enticing little figure. At this time, Sir Henry had righted the clumsy father. The old woman had convinced Anna to follow her into the forest. For just a peek, Getcha assured in the highest voice. Only a few steps into the trees, Anna regretted her decision. She couldn't keep up with a woman. This may be easy for you. But I am too... Too what? Getcha snapped in his normal voice, turning with such speed with his hood fell off. Anna tried to scream, but couldn't. Too tall, too pretty, too good for the lowlanders. You're one of us now, he proclaimed. The princess turned to run, but the forest had closed in behind her. Your king can't save you. Gotcha crackled, rubbed his hands together. Meanwhile, Sir Henry and the villagers searched, but no one had seen where Anna had entered the forest. The princess was gone. When the king heard, he wept quietly. Who took her? he asked Sir Henry. I don't know, the teacher responded sadly. Suddenly Edward entered, pulling the farmer into the sleeve, leading him before the king. Guna, within the cloak, tripped on Edward's feet, sending the two imps sprawling. The Lowlanders scurried to their feet. Edward drew his sword. The king motioned back him. Where did you take Anna? The king demanded. Emma snickered. Take her? She went by choice. Liars, defied Edward. Any evidence of resistance? She wanted to leave, Guna added. The king shook his head sadly. Look at the sad king. Oh. He knew the Lowlanders spoke the truth, and he knew that no one except the Lowlanders could navigate the forest. Would you ever see Anna again? His attendants assumed he wouldn't want to, but to be kidnapped is one matter. But to run away? He spun from the window and surprised them. I will go after her. The response was quick. But the forest? I will cut a path. It is too thick. I am strong. Silence hung. Finally one knight dared. But she has chosen them, the king replied. She has been my daughter much longer than she has been with them. And so the king prepared to leave. Vested in his strong armor, bearing his sharpest sword, and marbled in the kingdom's bravest hearts, he stood at the castle gates. Edward offered to accompany him, but the king declined. This is my job. But I will help. I'll be fine. You wait here and guard the castle. Edward straightened. That I will do. When you return with Anna, will find me waiting. Sir Henry apologized, but again, for his part in losing the girl. You aren't to blame, the king said softly, placing a hand on Sir Henry's shoulder. The battle was destined to happen. People lined the castle walls, watching the king stride towards the trees. Without hesitation, he entered the forest, and with one mighty slash of the sword, ancient Grove began to tumble. The image of Anna crawling her way through the brushwood tormented him. His arms and legs bled from the thorns. Her cuts would be worse. As the fog thickened, Lowlanders' mount resisted. Emma snapped in his legs, swinging from above. They clawed his shoulders, lacking courage to face him. They hid in the bush and darted from holes. One flashed the king's blade, and they scampered into hiding. They could not slow his progress or lessen his resolve. That's a seriously cool picture. You got like, and the king's like, I'm gonna get you. The forest ended abruptly. The king stepped into a clearing, his clothes and skin torn. They found Anna, confused, in the center of the village. The forest dwellers had abandoned their huts. The princess didn't run, nor did she approach her father. She stood frozen with shame. He sighed. Her clothes and skin were shredded, her hair matted and caught with burrs. Her back was already beginning to stoop like a lowlander. When he touched her shoulder, she stiffened. Come back to me, he offered. She said nothing. Why would you stay? She had no answer. Not for her father, not even for herself. Come back to the castle with me, he offered. But I'm one of them now, she mumbled. But you weren't made for this. The king was silent. He knew what had to be done. Looking for me? The sound of Olaf's voice made the monarch cringe. Your daughter is content here. No one is content in your presence. Olaf's eyes glowed. His bat-winged cape hung to the ground, exposing claw feet. I have come for Anna. She is mine. One of many to come. They cannot resist. You can't keep them from the shadows, Olaf growled. I'll give you something better, the king offered. What could be better than a daughter of the king? Olaf laughed, then realized what the king meant. You wouldn't. The king's silence was his answer. Give yourself? Anna turned towards her father. No, she prayed softly. Look how evil that little evil dude is. What? Gosh, that's impressive. With so many little dudes. Olaf risked no delay. He opened his cape, releasing legion of lowlanders that rushed to swarm the queen. So Olaf stood over the king's lifeless body. Behold, your king Anna. His love couldn't save you nor himself. Anna rushed to her father. Her tears dropped in his face. What have I done? Olaf yanked her up. He had sealed your people's doom. He cocked his head, releasing high-pitched laughter. The lowlanders jumped, danced, and screamed at the feet of the leader. Anna stood still. What have I done? She asked herself again. Kneeling, she took the king's hand and pressed it to her face. Then he felt one hand move. She searched his face. For years, when retelling this story, she would describe this moment. His eyes opened and sparkled, as if saying, "This may try. They may try, but they can't kill me." She stood. Oleb commanded, "Grab her." "Stop," her father declared, jumping on his feet. "We have no power over me or mine." The lowlanders crept backwards. Oleb did too, muttering. He and his defeat followers ducked into the forest. Just then, Emma and Gunn appeared. "We escaped. Anna is ours." Emma stopped. Ganna ran into him. They stared at the king, then at an empty village. "Oh, looks like we came at a bad time," Emma whispered slowly back. Away, the two turned and ran into the trees. The king turned to Anna, smiled, and extended his hand in the direction. "She still doesn't understand. I can't go back. I don't know the way, but Anna, that is why I came." For the first time, she saw the opening and path leading to the castle. Now she understood. Placing her hand in his and her trusting in him, she made her choice. "Stay with me," the father invited. "I'll show you the way home." Ooh, the end. Okay, and then the king rescued the princess, and I'm okay with that. We're not meant to rock a solo journey. The princess needs some little, kings and savages along the way, because there's other fierce savages out there that will eat your soul. Have a good day. Have a good week. Give permission to tell a story.